Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Keeping Up with Frontline. This is Frontline's monthly webinar where we talk to retail experts to understand how is it that we can grow and develop the L&D through their expertise and insights. My name is Susanna, and I'm the head of product at Frontline. And in today's webinar titled Holiday Hustle, How Training Teams Can Maximize Sales Impact, I have two extremely talented individuals on my panel for the webinar. I have Ms. Tripti Pandey. She is the head of talent transformation at a QSR industry. And we have Ms. Dipali Sinha, who is the national lead L&D training management at a retail organization. Thank you so much, both of you, for giving us your time for this webinar. I'm just going to quickly wait for a few seconds so I know that all of our viewers can join us for this webinar. We'll just start in maybe 20 seconds and we'll get started.
Thank you for having us here, Susan.
Thank you. Also, for our audience, if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to put them in the chat and we will address them. I might, depending on how the conversation is going, I might take them during the talk that we have or at the end for the separate Q&A sessions that we have. So to get started with, when you look at our topic, it says how training teams can maximize sales impact. There are two foundational assumptions that we have made when thinking of this particular statement, and I'd like to get both of your opinions on that. The first assumption that we've made is that training actually directly influence sales performance within a short period of time, because we're looking at how training initiatives or strategies can help specifically during this holiday season of October, November, December, and maybe Jan. So do you think training does have an actual impact on sales performance? Tripti, why don't we start with you, and then Dipali will hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Susanna. And you're right when we talk about this. This is the time which is the busiest time that we are in right now. And yes, there is, training does influence the sales performance for a short period of time. If targeted, well-structured training can have an immediate impact on the sales performance, especially when focused on high impact areas like product knowledge, customer service, and sales techniques. The key is to streamline the training to focus on what is actionable and relevant for the holiday season.
Absolutely. So I think actionable and reliable or relevant for the holiday period is definitely what we're looking at. Dipali, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, certainly I agree to Tripti to a large extent. And in fact, I would say that definitely training impacts the sales performance in short term. But if you ask me, can it be only a short term training program? My answer would be a yes and a no. Because I feel, as a training lead, when we are building annual strategy programs and plans at each designation for trainings, we also have to be cognizant that the plans which we are building takes into account the adaptability and the flexibility of the people in the front end. Because while in the usual days, they have to focus on customer experience, they have to focus on various other factors which can take their own time and which is like a regular routine operational day. However, vis-a-vis in the sales, they have to be trained and advanced in two aspects. One is behavioral flexibility, the agility to be changing gears, and then looking at operational excellence, speed, which is required in the sales to be able to handle mass volumes of high footfalls, at the same time not giving up on quality standards and acknowledging customers, making them feel warm. I don't think this training can happen in a matter of days. However, a refresher training in capsules can be given just before the sale period starts. To answer your question, I think it's a blend of what you do in the fabric of your training plan and also what you do just before the sale period starts. It's a blend according to me.
Understood. And I think because you're talking about training plan, I'm going to direct my second clarification for the assumption to you first. Is you were talking about how you might have an annual training strategy, but here we're looking at is a strategy specific to the holiday season relevant? Is it needed? If yes, how is it different from the yearly strategy that you might have? If no, can your yearly strategy account for the holiday season?
So, is this directed to me, the question? Yes. So, like I said, yes, of course, you should have. There is a separate strategy for what you're going to train the staff. Be it your permanent staff. In some organizations, we also hire temporary staff. Not specific to a specific retailer, but I'm sure there are many retailers out there who manage temporary staff. So obviously there is a different strategy for them. Like Tripti rightfully said, the focus should be what is the need of the hour, what is the relevant things to do, which each staff at their level should know. What is it? It could be as simple as a step to step guide to what I need to do in terms of my product, in terms of my replenishment and my behavior. So if there is a clarity in giving instructions, sometimes very simple things work when the time is a constraint and speed is the necessity. So yes, there is a different strategy in training for the sale period. However, like I said, the entire culture also, it's a larger discussion. Culturally also, the managers should be able to manage this kind of flexibility.
Got it. Yeah. Tripti, your thoughts on this?
I agree with Dipali in that it is a year-long strategy that we work on. However, when we talk about holiday season, the demand, the holiday seasons demands a different approach, focusing on high-volume customer service, quick product turnaround, increased in customer engagement. This requires training that is tailored in a very fast-paced, high-pressure system. So yes, I agree with this completely.
Understood. So I think because the business environment changes, therefore the L&D landscape also changes to adapt to the needs of the
Yes.
hour. So for our audience, the next bit that we're going to go through is the 4 stages of the holiday season. So we're looking at what are some strategies that as an L&D you can adopt before the sales period starts. What can you do during the sales period? And we're going to look at 2 aspects of the period during the sales. The first one is how can you maximize training impact during this time, and the second, equally important, is how do you ensure that your team is motivated, and how do you retain your staff, especially seasonal staff, during this high sales peak performance period that we have. And we're going to end with how do you evaluate a post holiday evaluation of your training program that you've implemented, and what is it that you can do to be prepared next time as well. So those are the 4 areas that we're going to look at. For the first 2, Tripti, I'm going to address them to you. So we're looking at pre-holiday preparations. We were talking about your organization. You start as early as January, is what I heard. So what do you suggest team members do, either at like an L&D head level, training leads, area managers? What can they do to prepare for this holiday season? What training initiatives that they can take and plan? I'm happy to hear your thoughts on that.
So let's start off with the most important thing is onboarding seasonal staff quickly. Now, as we discussed, planning starts at a stage where in January, so that by early October we can, or early September, late October, we can start off with a complete focused training. At the same time, what happens is in the holiday seasons, like currently, the kind of issues that we are facing is a high turnaround during the holiday season. Even though we plan, we have a plan A, we have a plan B or a plan C, but still during holiday season, there's a huge turnaround of team members, especially at the shop floor level. So over here, when we are doing the onboarding, it has to be, the key is speed. You have to do it at a very fast-paced process because you want them to be productive immediately. So from onboarding seasonal staff quickly, we have implemented various strategies, that is like streamlining orientation programs to making it bite-sized module using LMS to drive these modules, so that that leads to easy information gathering for the team members. So we focus mostly on during our these bite size orientation module, we focus more on sales process, customer service. We talk about how to increase the sales, that is upselling and suggestive selling. So these are the things that we focus during onboarding or seasonal staff, and that has to be very quick, bite size, easy for them to learn. Four-step process, not difficult, not complicated. Everything has to be simplified. When it comes to product training, in product training, we are talking about comprehensive product knowledge that can make or break the holiday season. So holiday sales is a critical time for us right now. So we focus on micro learning techniques, which are easy to digest, easy to understand. As I mentioned earlier also, they have to be those four-step processes, which is easy for a person to learn. The kind of team members that we are getting is 12th class pass with that kind of a mindset. So we prioritize in making everything very simple and easy for a team member, wherein they focus on highest margin products. And we also have things which we use regularly, is flashcard approach. That means every day we give them a kind of a quiz or a questionnaire, and we flash answers for that questionnaire. So it is a recall that works during this time. The more we push, like for example, I'll give you a small example. Today we ran a campaign on Katli sales. That is Kaju Katli. So how does Kaju Katli, what are the prices of Kaju Katli? Those were the questions that were asked. And the response is really good because it's engaging new team member also, as well as seasoned team member. There's a recall value that is gathered around. So that's how we deal with pre-holiday preparation.
Very nice. So I think what I'm taking away from here is the fact that you are very focused onboardings, because
Yes.
you are targeting the seasonal staff. So you're saying what is relevant for them at this point in time for them to get through the seasonal rush, is what you're focusing on. Do you have any tips for organizations who have, let's say, who are just beginning to onboard seasonal staff, and they may not have had maybe the time from January to now to prepare something for it? What are some quick things do you think they can do immediately to say, tomorrow I want to onboard 50 staff or 100 staff in my organization for the season? Any quick tips that you can think of for that situation?
So, when you have, when you've onboarded, and this is what's happening currently in my organization that I'm in right now, that, we are onboarding daily, regularly, 20 to 30 people every day, because that is the need of the hour and that's how it is working. So in this kind of a scenario, what we have followed is the induction or the orientation process. We have crunched it down and made it into a 2-day process, wherein we start off with giving them, as I mentioned earlier also, bite-sized modules, which is very focused on product knowledge, selling techniques, and also customer service. So these are the 3 areas of focus that we work on, and we use the learning management system to promote these kind of modules. Plus, to keep the team members motivated, we have a leadership board wherein whoever has answered the question properly, and who has answered the question fully, they come in the leadership board. So there's a healthy competition among the team members. We also flash in things like daily motivational quotes, so to motivate the team to make sure that they are more engaged, and that's how we work on it, because we are talking about across pan India. We are talking about 100 to 200 people onboarding every month during the festive time. So that is wherein we have to ensure that it has to be short, simple, and easy. This is the key to keeping the team member engaged during this fast paced time where you want team members to be productive. So short, simple, and easy is the key to everything.
Okay, I've definitely noted that down. Short, simple, and easy is like should be the mantra if you're looking at onboarding team members very quickly in this season. So just moving on to the situation where, let's say, it is the season time, it is peak performance time where sales needs to be very high. So at this point in time, what are some strategies that you are implementing to maximize training impact? Because if training is done well, they know about product knowledge, customer service, like you mentioned, that directly has a very, I think, connected dots to the sales performance that they have. So what are some things that you are doing for maximizing training impact during the seasonal sales?
So what we do is we run short modules on upselling, managing high volume customers, problem solving techniques. Other than this, we have created these small job cards wherein in our industry, product knowledge plays a very critical role. And that's why we have created a small hand size module, which is a job card that they have, which details in all the product details, like in terms of the pricing, the allergens, the ingredients, so that they know the details of the product. At the same time, we have this. We train our we train our store managers, that are our restaurant managers, our assistant restaurant managers, to actually during the briefing time, just spend 5 minutes on basic training modules, which are very easy to implement and very easy to run, it does not take time, maximum 10 to 15 minutes time that is taken on how to deal with customer volumes and upselling. So these these briefings happen daily, and that impacts a lot, because the more you recall about it and when more you talk about it with your team, the better it gets. And I know it is a busy time, but the briefing part is so important, as you know, and it's aware of it. It's very important. So during briefing, we do have our management team of the store, that is the restaurant manager, the assistant restaurant manager, take up these topics like upselling and handling customer, high volume customers, as well as problem solving techniques. So that has helped us a lot in the past also, and it's helping us now also.
Understood. So on an average, how many SKUs or products do you think your team members are expected to know, just to give us an idea of the volume that they're looking at?
So we are talking about close to 120 in the sweets section. That is 120 sweets that are there, and close to around 80 F&B items.
Wow. So around 200, 250 SKUs, and I think your strategy, and not to forget, each of them have their own allergens that you need to remember. Each of them have their
Yes.
own shelf life instructions. And so I think your suggestion for handling such a large SKU is, one, ensure that job aids are available to them very easily, so that at any point in time they can just quickly refer to that. And the second one is to see if you can empower the store team members to take on very specific skill-based training for upskilling, or if you mentioned problem solving, customer service, whatever's the need of the hour, I'm assuming, in that particular store, can be taken up to ensure that during the sales period, the training impact is quite high. Just for a quick understanding, do you specify a specific duration to say, okay, everybody from 8 to 9 has to have like a welcome huddle or something, so that this training information is dispersed to your store? Or is it generic, on the go, whenever they have time, they can do this?
See, Basically these training topics is just on the go, because we cannot give them a time specification, knowing that this is the business time and this is when we have a high footfall, so we cannot have anything that is very specific to a timeline. So that has to what we always do is we try to tell them that, today the topic of the day is this. For example, today the topic of the day is upselling. So it will be in the digital form also. It will be through the restaurant manager or the assistant restaurant manager doing the briefing on it. But that is how we maintain it. But there's no time given or a time slot given for this. It has to be as you go. And many a times team members, when they are traveling back, when they are in the bus or when they are in the train, they usually go through these modules. They find it very interesting. Since it's video form, they really enjoy it.
Very nice. So I think from what I can take away from your sharing, Tripti, is definitely the short, simple, easy method to ensure that whatever you do during the sales period is short, is simple, and is easy. And the second thing is targeted learning topics. So like you mentioned, what is the topic of the day, the job aid, every day, the example that you gave us of the Kaju Katli, just quick facts about Kaju Katli or whatever it is that we are selling in
Yes.
our SKUs. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Tripti. I will come back to you for the next part of the webinar. For now, if you can get Dipali back on stage, and she can help us with the following questions that we have. Yes. So welcome back, Dipali. So we were just talking about how we were doing the pre-holiday prep, and during the season, what is it that we can do? So a question to you, and I know in your organization, you're definitely playing a huge role in ensuring this happens, is how do you ensure motivation and retention during these peak periods? Because there's obviously, it's a high pressure environment. They have to perform. There is no choice. There are sales targets that need to be met. In that scenario, how are you ensuring that the team is motivated, and how do you retain them in this time?
Sure. So, like I mentioned earlier, Suzanne, if you remember that, and I specified and emphasized on the cultural DNA and a fabric of an organization. So, there are two parts to the question you've asked about motivation. What we try to do is we believe that the store managers, be it any format, it could be a hypermarket or a fashion or a departmental store, the store manager plays a very crucial part in motivation and the team energy. So it's not something which you can manage out of a head office as a training staff. And I think it's absolutely necessary that you align your store managers to training programs which helps them to in situational leadership, and it helps them and enables them to build a very high performing and motivated teams. So that's a part where you are already designing a program which enables your store managers to motivate their team. Second thing, as Tripti rightfully said, in day and age today where we are using training apps which is in hand of all the staff, which is like a enabler, and the artificial intelligence gamified versions of the small things, which it could be something as difficult and mundane as regular processes of the store, but it could be gamified and it could be given in bite-sized modules to the staff, which is as a ready reckoner available on the handset in a gamified manner. That really truly helps us. Also, what I feel is it's absolutely necessary for the training department to be completely aligned with the business manager. Now, this is that golden quarter of the time where I feel you should learn from your previous sales. I'm sure that every sale periods we cannot be right 100%. There is always something which we have to learn from the last season. So take that as a basic training need identification, and have a list of, you can bucket it into process excellence, you can bucket it into customer service experience, voice of the customer, you can bucket it into staff behavior or KPIs, and make it into very like Tripti rightfully said, and I'm sure every training head will agree that the simpler and the shorter it is, the more engaging it is, the more effective it is.
Mm-hmm.
So while I do say that, we have very comprehensive programs for building culture, and managers are trained in such a way where they understand that motivation and the emotional intelligence is a key factor in driving sales. During the sale periods, it's really about sales. To be very candid, it's at end of the day, it is the numbers which we are looking at. So, if in what works for us is in our organization, the training team is absolutely accountable for the sales KPIs. And when I'm saying accountable, I mean it is in the KRAs of the training. And if we also have visibilities to what each store is performing in. Now, this is a time where, even as a training team, are we able to look at the numbers and quickly customize programs, assign those modules, say a hypothetical situation where a cluster of, or a region, or a couple of stores are not doing well in a specific KRA or a KPI. Can I quickly assign those particular relevant courses to these people? If there is a certain set of stores who are doing well in business, however, the customers are not satisfied with the behavioral aspect, can I give them some other courses? So I think quick customization is a key, and the customization cannot be random. It has to be the solution to the problem. And therefore, complete hand in glove, being part of business reviews, looking at the numbers on hourly basis is something which not perhaps, not all training teams do, but in our organization, it is the way we work. And I think it is a key to our success, especially during this golden quarter and the sale period. It is great if we know that, who requires what, to be able to diagnose. So one is the general quick content, bite-size content which we give out in the app. One is the culture building activities, the briefings, and the other part is, okay, now I know that who needs what, and I can assign customized this to them. Also, I would like to add here, Susanna, is that while as training team we are used to saying that it is great to have a positive attitude and motivation, all that. It might sound a little brave or candid if I say that as a training manager and as a business manager who's driving sales during this festive period, it is absolutely important to also have a negative mindset. So when I say negative, let me explain that. So I'm talking about reverse brainstorming. As a business manager, as a retail training head, do I know what is the worst possible situation which can spoil my sale period? Do I have a laundry list of things which can go absolutely crazy and will not go as per plan? Do I have a contingency plan for that? Be it people, be it process, be it product, or any possible problems. So for me to start with problem statements, no matter how undiplomatic it sounds, I think really is a great thing to do, because then I know that it's like insurance policy. So a sales period, anything, and I'm sure. So we have hypermarket scenario where speed and agility. If the staff knows the placement of the 2,000, 3,000 SKUs, that's more than enough. If they know what is Otis, Quakers, oats, and they know the names of the exotic fruits, it's more than, and where they are is enough. Whereas in West Side, it is important for the employee to engage and talk about fabrics, about fashion, about trends. So also it is very specific to what you are selling. What is your customer proposition? What is your business proposition? What I'm really trying to get to, Susanna, is as a training manager, those days where one size fits all or once a customer service module works for everything doesn't help at all. I mean, that's what I have observed in my tenure, that every time there is a different problem, and although the bucket would be same, we would talk about customer service, we would talk about product and availability and speed and attrition. The problems remain the same, but the approach to the solution is different each time. And having a visibility on that, working along with the business managers, is, I think, what is the need of the hour.
So I think a lot of thoughts to unpack there, Dipali. My highlights that I'm taking back is definitely ensuring that the training team is aligned to the business team, especially during this time, because that's the buy-in that the training team can get with the operational team or the business dev team to ensure that later on training initiatives are taken, but at this period of time can they help ensure that sales are definitely met? Reverse brainstorming was definitely a nice addition there. Can you think of all the things that can go wrong, make a list of it, and have like a contingency plan for those things, just to get your brain thinking and being able to handle situations? And I think the third thing that I picked up was, how can we empower existing store team members? And you mentioned store managers. Can we equip them to be responsible for the motivation in their team, so that they're not expecting, so to say, the power to come from the head office. They have the power within themselves to motivate their store team. So I think definitely relevant points there. Just to quickly talk about the post holiday evaluation. So we've done these initiatives, they've run at a certain period of time. What are some key metrics that you would suggest that we take away after the post holiday season that has happened? What are some things we should keep in mind and maybe park it for the next season? Like you mentioned, we need to learn from the previous season to do something for this one. What can we take away from the current season for the next? Some key metrics that you have in mind.
So a matrix, basically, Susanna, I feel that every training initiative you do, be it a bite-sized module, be it an in-store module, which you let the manager run in, as a briefing, or it could be a artificial intelligence gamified version. Any training initiative do can be directly or indirectly correlated to a specific business KPI. So, for example, if I'm inducting, let me give an example in this case. If I'm quickly inducting, say, 50 people and doing a scrunched up version of sales induction program with them, which includes mainly what is required, focusing on what skill set and capability is required out of them for these specific sale period. If I'm running a program like that in, say, 4 stores, and not doing the same induction in, say, 2 stores, this is a hypothetical example, are those, the sale numbers or the productivity of these staff can be measured against the induction program. In a larger run, whether if you're doing a specific, say, a loyalty program, which you are selling during sales as well, or some specific KPI, a focus item or a focus article which you want to sell, or a specific department or a specific brand which is on markdown. So that's why, initially I said having visibility on organization strategy for business is absolutely important, because if I know what was a focus article or product or strategy in pricing, and if I've already trained my team on these promotional strategies on how to answer questions in very simplified. So although all this sounds very complex, but when you break it down and to a you synthesize it to designation wise, if you are giving the same thing to a 12th pass person who is in your front end, vis-a-vis you are training your regional heads to manage the entire region for the same thing, obviously the approach will be different, but the outcome is the same. So I think, to answer your question again, let me summarize that correlating your training programs with the data and seeing whether there is an upward trend or a difference between pre and post is something which is critical. For the things which have not worked out, and let me tell you, Susanna, not everything is trainable. There could be operational issues. We cannot forget that not everything is trainable. So if there are, God forbid, no footfalls in the organization, as a training head, or as a person who is in charge of driving sales, the idea would be to train the marketing people in the corporate to do a better job, to get the footfalls in, and not the front end. So really, doing a Pareto's and knowing which is that 30% which is causing a 70% problem, and where does it lie? Who is the person who is maximum impacting on the KPI which is not working is absolutely necessary.
Got it. Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. To say, can you correlate your training interventions to sales objectives and see different scenarios to make it work the way you'd like it, be again aligned to the business objectives that we have. So something that you spoke about, the reverse brainstorming bit, I just like to pick your brain here. Can you talk about maybe 2 or 3 specific factors that you feel could possibly go wrong, even though you've had the best plans going through, but these are 2-3 common things or most obvious things that could go wrong that we should definitely have a contingency plan for?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, forward planning always helps. But what can actually go wrong is, there are certain things which you for something as weird as calamities or a fire in the store. This has happened in the past, where there's a fire in the store and we were not prepared for it in the past. So all that, if you think of everything which can go wrong, like I said, make a laundry list. I'll give a fun example here to lighten up the webinar a little bit. And this example is not from my current organization, so I can feel free to share, where I was managing hypermarket and not the departmental luxury brand. The idea, we had an activity with the area managers, asking them, getting them all huddle up in a room and asking them to come up and giving them each a role. So one was the HR, human resource, one was the maintenance, one was the product buying. So we gave them roles and we asked them to come up with ideas which they, if they planted as a spy in the organization, and they have to ensure that the sale doesn't work, what is it that they will do to spoil the sale period?
Okay.
So the HR guy said, okay, I will give the work off on the sale period. Okay, I will not train my staff for customer service. I will encourage them to behave unethically. The food and beverages guy said, I will not make. I'll make sure that the vegetables are not kept properly and there is dump, etc. So there were 280 ideas in a span of 60 seconds
Mm.
to a minute, which came out, and we all jotted it down. So and we worked backward. So what would you, so working backward would be, okay, since you're talking about giving work off to your employees during the sale period, how are you covering this now in your current role? Is that you have a backup staff ready. If your fruits and vegetables and dump is not going to be good, if there are cockroaches around and dirt and all that, so what are you doing? You are going to do a pest control before the sale period. If somebody saying, I'm the maintenance guy and I'll make sure that the trolleys are not available and the ACs are not working, then are you doing something to make sure that the trolleys availability is there and the AC is serviced before the sale period? So what I'm trying to say is, human mind is easily accustomed to think negative. Tell them to what can go wrong, and the store managers and the area managers will give you a laundry list faster than you can think.
Mm.
Then all you need to do as a training head is just make sure this doesn't happen and you have a plan against it.
Very
So
nice.
yeah, that is a theory which really worked and was appreciated.
Very
So
nice. I think then you have a ready-made list of things you have to look out for, and that comes from the team themselves, so they know how to maybe be prepared for it. Thank you so much, Dipali. I'm going to give you a break now and maybe call back Tripti on stage so that I can ask her the similar questions that have her thoughts on that. So hi Tripti, so you're listening to us where we're talking about how we looked at how to keep our team members motivated as well as how to increase retention during this time, and we looked at how to do post-holiday evaluations. But any interesting thoughts on that before we move forward? How to
See, Diwali said some very interesting pointers that she had put across, and I really like that reverse psychology that she spoke about. Yes, you're very right. Human beings think in a very negative way. To prepare them, it is very critical that we ask them what can go wrong, so that that's when we start preparing and making ourselves ready. And one more thing that was really nicely spoken about, and I 100% agree with it, is that we need to give the responsibility to a store management team for motivating the team. That kind of empowerment has to come to the store management team, because he or she is the whole and soul of the store at that particular time. So not everything has to be run can be run through from the corporate office. A certain level of motivation comes from the store manager itself. So the store manager is totally empowered and responsible for not only the training of the team in the store, but also is responsible for motivating the team and ensuring that they are well taken care of when there's a lot of hustle and bustle that is going on. And this is the time when there's a lot of hustle and bustle. It's high pressure time when team members leave and go. So it becomes very difficult from a corporate or a regional level to look at things and say that, okay, fine, let's motivate them. It has to come from the store management team. So
So
Diwali, it was lovely, whatever you spoke, it was really nice.
very glad that I think you're in sync, even though you're working from two different perspectives or organizations, industries that you have. You're at least in sync in terms of strategies that we can adopt throughout in the L&D space. So just trying to understand your perspective on two, three things that could possibly go wrong, even though you've prepared for the seasonal sales, you've done everything. But what are some two, three things that in your experience has a tendency to go wrong that we should be prepared for?
See, what usually happens is in our kind of a setup, perishability plays a very critical role. So sometimes, when we have ordered for a stock and the stock that comes to the store is not as per our expectation, either it is damaged or it has expired, or there's a shelf life issue with it. That's when you go out of stock, and during sales period, going out of stock is it's a complete no in our kind of a scenario. So that is one of the challenges, and how to keep the team, how do the team address the guest concern or the customer's concern when the customer asks for certain items or is expecting that item, especially during these peak days of Diwali, that is the 5 days of Diwali, or post Diwali, even Christmas time. So how do you ensure you are well stocked is very critical, and that is when a lot of planning comes into play. And though it is not a training concern, but still we have to ensure that the team member knows how to address, especially the shop floor employee should know how to address the concern when it comes to out of stock items. And how does a manager deal with this? How is he planned? How does he or she plan for this kind of a scenario? That is one thing. The second challenge that we do happen in the store is a high turnaround of team members. That's when we have team leaving us because other places there's a huge demand, and they just stop coming, the very next day. They just stop coming without any prior notice, without any kind of information. And it becomes stressful for the people who are already there in the store. So the challenge over here is how to retain them during, what to give them or motivate them or retain them during this time. And that is when we have incentive programs running. There are, we give a lot of carrot and stick approach that happens. So that is another thing that we do face, and this usually happens during just before Diwali. So we see a lot of people just leaving and going because they don't want to work in Diwali, they want to be at home, so they just quit and they just go without information. And that's when you have to keep them focused, challenged, motivated through a good incentive program. So that's the second thing that I see a challenge that happens. The third challenge that definitely happens is how high volume you cannot. There are times when consistency in customer service is missing, or consistency in ensuring the customer feels that warmth, because there's huge volume coming into your store. How do you ensure that the team member is consistent in following your MOTs, that is moment of truths? How do you ensure that they do not forget about it? That is a challenge, because during a busy time people tend to forget, tend to not forget, they tend to miss it out because they're so busy in handling multiple customer queries, questions, and various other things. So these are the three challenges that we do face.
Okay. So you're looking at perishability, you're looking at turnaround, high turnaround time, and how to ensure consistent customer interactions. Definitely, MOPs are something we have to keep our eye out on. So for the audience, if there's any questions, do feel free to put it up in the chat and we'll take it up. And for those of you who have been following us in terms of keeping up with Frontline in our previous webinars, you know that we end our sessions with practical scenarios where we discuss certain things that happen on the floor, and what can some of the experts that have joined us on the call give their insights on how they would handle the situation. So if I could request Smriti to maybe share her screen, and we'll get started with these practical scenarios. So the way we've structured this one for this particular webinar is that we have three stakeholders that we're looking at. We're looking at some issues that a store team member will face, an area manager will face, and a training lead will face in the holiday season, and specific instances that they can come about. So Tripti will answer two, and Dipali will answer the last one. So Tripti, the first scenario that we are looking at, and if we can move to the next slide, is when there's peak holiday season, and you can see that there's somebody at the billing counter. There's a customer who comes and says is visibly frustrated because there is a product that's out of stock, which we talked about in the perishable example. So the store does not have what the customer wants, and the customer is visibly frustrated in this situation. But you can also see that there's a long billing queue as well that the team member has to handle. And there is the manager on the phone in the backside, like taking up something, and the store manager can't help you. So in such a situation, what would you do as a store team member, or what advice would you give if you were a team member standing close by? Your thoughts on this, Tripti?
Classic example. This usually does happen most of the time. So in this kind of a scenario, how do you handle it? Okay, quite interesting. First is you need to approach the customer very calmly, and you need to acknowledge the customer's concern. What happens is many a times, and this is what well, I'm training the team, or when we train the team, we keep telling the team that you need to maintain your calm. Because what happens is, this is when you are so pressurized. You have people who are standing in the queue making all sorts of their body language is very, very aggressive. So that's when you need to stay calm. You need to acknowledge their frustration, and that you do by saying that I understand how disappointing it could be that the product is out of stock. I'm really sorry for your inconvenience. This is something that we keep, stressing on for the team member to stay. See, why is it important to show empathy? Is because that makes the customer feel that they are being heard. And the worst thing that can happen is when you don't hear the customer, because that's when they become even more frustrated. So you're acknowledging them, you're acknowledging their concern, and you're showing that empathy. That is very important. The second is thing that you need to do is you need to offer for an alternative product or a solution. Now, if a person has come and the classic example that I gave is of a Kaju Katli, and the person wants to order 10 kg of Kaju Katli, you only have 5 kg of Kaju Katli left with you. You know that the next batch is coming the very next day. So what you can do is you can, offer an alternative solution by saying that I do understand your concern. We do not have the product right now. We currently have 5 kgs right now. The next 5 kgs, I will get it delivered at your home. So that could be one of the solutions. The other solution could be a similar kind of a product. If it's not Kaju Katli, anything based of Kaju or a milk, a different kind of a product. So that, maybe a Kesar Katli, which is in the similar background. Only thing is, you should know. So when the team member should know that what are the alternatives that they can give instead of the main product. So that is when we do upselling and suggestive selling training, we always specify to our team members that these are the alternatives. If one thing is out of stock, this is the other thing that is out of stock, that you can not out of stock, that you can suggest. That is the second thing that you can do. The third thing is call for help. Okay, enlist help from a colleague. If you are too tied up and this is taking a lot of time and there's a long queue ahead, you can call for a colleague who's nearby, and you can hand over this query to that particular colleague to deal with. That will also help. Or you can ask the team, means the guest, to step, or the customer to step across and wait while a colleague comes and helps them up. But have a regular check, because you don't want the customer to become even more irate than what he or she is. So
Hmm.
that is what you need to do. Also, when one thing that we keep forgetting is, we don't tell our customer about the wait time. So it's very important that we communicate honestly to the customer as to what is the wait time. See, honesty is very critical when you have a irate customer standing in front of you. And many a times I have heard team members being shy away from this, because they feel that, if I honestly tell him, that it will take another 40 minutes or 30 minutes, he might become even more frustrated. But that's not the case. In If you're being honest, you can by being honest, you can always rest assured that the guest also tries to understand you. So it is very important that you tell him that, okay sir, why don't you sit down while my team member is coming. It might take another 10 minutes for the team member to come. In the meantime, please have a seat. Would you like to have a glass of water? Or just hand him over a small bottle of water to him, and that's it. Tell him to wait, sit down calmly, or just wait across till your colleague comes and helps. So this is, the fourth important point that you should follow. The fifth point that you should follow is always offer a follow up. Now, for example, a person had ordered for a kaju katli who could give only 5 kgs. He had ordered for 10 he wants 10 kgs. Then you can always say that I will deliver the next 5 kgs in the next, the next day at around 10 o'clock, for example. So your call should be going out to him at 9 o'clock, informing them that, okay, we were supposed to deliver you the kaju katli at 10 o'clock. 9 o'clock, we are leaving from here. You will be getting your kaju katli by 9:45. So if that's when your follow-ups happen, and that gives the customer delight, and they like it, when you deliver before the promised time, and when you do a complete follow-up, that makes it quite delightful. And last but not least is, there are many techniques to maintain queue efficiency. One is service on seat, wherein you can have, while you're having a long queue, you can ask for a colleague's help to come and take the orders themselves. Means they can come with their SOS, that is service on seat tabs, and take orders, so that to reduce the queue time that is in the store. So these were the major points, that is to be covered, during this kind of a scenario.
I think very comprehensive, Tripti. You've covered with 6 points, all of them very relevant. Acknowledge the customer, calmly respond, upsell, suggestive sell for alternatives. Be honest, which sometimes I think we've taken for granted that we're not going to be honest to our customers. We'll say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but not really being honest about wait times. And I think the most important one is definitely offering follow up. If we have promised something to the customer, ensure that we follow up before the time, so the customer knows that, hey, they're actually on it and they will get back to us very soon. I think very comprehensive solution to this problem, Tripti. Thank you so much. The next one, this was a store team member, so the next one is as an area manager that we'd want to look at, and the problems that they might have. So as an area manager, you're looking at maybe two stores. One of them is struggling with disorganized seasonal staff, and they're not able to maintain or get to their sales numbers. And in the in the other store, they're actually thriving with confident employees, even though they have seasonal staff. So in both places, there is seasonal staff, but in one place they're very disorganized, and in the other place they're consistent. So as an area manager, how can you figure out what is the root cause of the underperformance of the first store, that you can give as feedback to the store manager, or something that you can do as an area manager to improve the performance of the first store?
Very relevant question again, or a very relevant scenario again.
Mm,
Um, the first thing that you need to do is analyze the performance matrix. It all begins with reviewing the KPIs across the stores, such as sales per hour, customer satisfaction through the NPS score, average transaction value, that is ATV, speed of service. Compare these with the underperforming stores to identify the specific area where performance is lagging.
mm,
Why do we do this? Because it is a very data driven approach, helps to pinpoint the issue that is related to sales, speed of service, or customer experience, giving a very clear picture. Rather than being ad hoc, you're becoming very specific and you're letting data speak. So
mm,
that is one thing, analyzing the performance matrix. The second thing is conduct a store visit and observe operation. Perform a proper walk of eight, where you visit a site or visit the store. Observe the first-hand operations. Look on how team members handle peak hours. Make your observation. Sit down in a corner. Don't disturb the operation. Just take your notes down. Check on the customer service quality, adherence to the SOPs, engagement level of the staff. These are few things that you need to just take down, jot down these points, observe it. A physical observation often reveals, an inefficient processes, teamwork, wherever there's a lack in morale. These are things which come out from your observation. There's a famous book called The 1 Minute Manager, right? It's always to become that 1 minute manager through the observation eye and stand in the store and observe it. So that's when you will start critically understanding where things are going wrong, which your store manager or your assistant store manager or your shift manager might have not observed it till now. But when you are observing it with a critical 1 minute manager eyes, you can figure it out.
mm,
The third thing that you need to do is you evaluate your training and onboarding process. Examine on how underperforming stores, and this is something even Dipali had mentioned, how underperforming stores have onboarded and trained their seasonal staff as compared to a high performing stores.
mm,
Did they implement the same product knowledge training, customer service guidelines, and sales technique? See, why is this important is because, and I've seen this, I've seen it, some stores who take training very seriously, the store manager takes, or the store management takes the training very seriously. You will notice that store performs quite well. They really do. Their team is highly motivated. They are performing well. Inconsistent or rushed training leads to gaps in staff competency because the staff is clueless. They don't
mm,
know what is happening. They are running like headless chicken. And that's when your performance dips. If your team members don't know how to handle customers or does not know about the product knowledge, they won't be able to sell or they won't be able to upsell. So
mm,
that's the third point. The fourth point is you need to engage with the store manager and the team. Have a one-on-one conversation with the store manager to understand what is their perspective on issues. Like for example, I'll just give you a recent example. Which has happened is a particular store was not able or was having issues in selling their food was because of uh, unavailability of certain items, and they were having a really difficult time with the SCM team. So
mm,
that's when the manager or when the area coach or the area manager, when they have a one-on-one session, they realize, okay, where things are going on wrong.
mm,
Talk to your team members, especially the seasonal staff. Identify their concern. What is it that they are having a issue in? Is it related to training? Is it related to the workload? Or is it that they are not getting any guidance?
Mm.
By doing so, what happens and why do you do so is basically to understand the leadership style of the store manager, understand or get a gist of what the employee feedback is. What are You'll also get to know what are the potential operational challenges that will help you identify the issues is with the team dynamic, leadership, lack of proper support. It could be many things. So this is one of the most crucial points which I believe. The fifth important point is also compare best practices. Now you have a underperforming store and you have a store which is the best performing store. So
Mm.
identify what the best performing store is doing differently. It can
Mm.
be the LSM process, that is the local store marketing process. Are
Mm.
they? What are the best practices that they are following? They are scheduling or managing. How do they manage productivity of the team? How do they manage? The downtime time is something that you need to understand from your best performing stores. And it's not bad to learn from someone who's doing really good and then replicate it. Just copy the practice in this particular store and it will work. The other thing that you need to do is examine the staffing and the scheduling.
Mm.
Very critical point, and this is where things go wrong. Um, you have to review the scheduling practice of the underperforming store. Are the right people scheduled at the right time? Now, for example, if you have a peak performer, you would want that peak performer in the form of a cashier during your peak time. So, is that deployment chart proper? Is the scheduling happening properly? Is the store inadequately staffed? If they are inadequately staffed, what can we do to ensure the staffing is full? That is
Mm.
another thing that we can do. And last but not least is check for any other external factors that might be affecting the performance of the stores. That could be local competition, customer demography, as I mentioned earlier, supply chain issues. So you can have a close look at on them. So these
Sure.
were the few. And as a conclusion, I believe to sum it all up, I would say that analyzing matrix, observing operations, comparing the best practice from a performing store, um, engaging with the store manager and the staff, you can pinpoint whether the issue is related to training, management, or external factor. And then, based on these analysis, you can act on how to make those improvement and improve the store.
Sure.
I
I
have
think,
actually seen turnarounds happening in a
right.
matter of a week. I've seen turnarounds happening.
I think your answers to this, to the practical scenario, definitely is powered by like experiences that you've had, because it's so comprehensive and it's got very practical tips to say do this, it'll work, because I know, like you mentioned, you've had something turn around in 1 week because you've done these things, right? So thank you
Yes.
so much, Tripti. I think both your answers for the practical scenarios should definitely give our audience practical tips that they can just take, plug and play, and ensure that it works for their scenarios as well. So thank you so much, Tripti. I'm just going to give you a break now and hopefully get the Pali back. So the Pali, I think you've been talking about as a training lead because you've had that experience. The next practical scenario I think should be right up your alley, where we're talking about there is a training lead. They're supposed to be doing something in terms of a training initiative which is aligned to KPIs in the store. They have low completion rates, but let's say another store or another region is doing very well. But as a training lead, you're definitely getting pushback from, let's say, your organizational stakeholders because you're not meeting KPIs as expected. What do you do? How do you overcome this? Practical tips that we can take away, Dipali.
Sure. So, first thing first is what I would like to say while looking at data analyzing data in all aspects is absolutely important, because I firmly believe that numbers can tell you the story. If you compare the data, it tells you the story. The ability to understand the story behind the number is very critical as a training lead. So if there is a store in this case scenario where we are selling fashion, high-end fashion, say doing what I'm doing currently, and the completion rates in terms of KPIs, I understand, right? Or is it training?
So
The question is
the completion rates are training, but they're linked to KPIs. So that's
KPIs. Yeah.
perspective. Yeah.
So if there is low completion rates, like I said, it's very important that you do a detailed root cause analysis and look at all the reports. So be it a net promoter score report. So when I'm talking about customer, we can probably look at a NPS score or a mystery shopping score. But since we are talking about the festive season, and you don't have the leisure to analyze, sit back and analyze at your time, and have to be quick up on your feet and take quick actions and understand and identify the problems quickly. In this case scenario, it becomes absolutely critical to understand that sometimes the simplest of problems can lead to this completion rate, be it training or KPIs. Now, when I say simplest, we have the tendency to look at complex data all the time. But sometimes just the fact that in a particular store, because we have to understand that the people who are getting us business are human beings at the end of the day, and not resource. So just for the fact that we are not rostering staff properly, there are staff who are being overworked and been asked to push 12 hours, 13 hours, 14 hours. And they are doing it because obviously they are needy and they are loyal. And
Right.
therefore I roll it all back to, is it always the numbers? Is it always the availability or the supply chain or any operational reason which is causing this completion rate? I would not be surprised to say that if the training is less, and and in my scenario, we're talking about 40,000 people. So from experience, I can say if a particular set of stores or a store, if the training and KPI or completion rates are less, usually it is a behavioral aspect of the manager or the team bonding or the emotional quotient in that store, which is the root cause. Usually, I'm not saying it is always, because why would otherwise the other store in the same format, in the same training be doing well? So once we analyze the cause and we realize that it is not the availability of the products or the supply chain which is the cause, then the completion rates could simply be that the manager is not respecting them or not treating them right, not having breaks. Simple things like making snacks and water available for the staff on the floor, understanding that the kind of hard work they are putting in and the kind of background. So we have staff and we as a group, I'm very proud to say that we are very inclusive, and we hire people from all across the background, be it skill development. So while we are selling high end fashion, we also hire people who are, and this is an example I can give you. Imagine a person in the store who cannot afford to buy a pair of shoes and a set of clothes once in a year, is selling high end fashion trend which is on the ramp of Paris and Milan.
Okay.
So, and he's doing that. Okay, we are training them with product knowledge. They understand the USP. They are hardworking, and if we are not recognizing their efforts, so there is incentive, there is monetary compensation, which is very important. It is absolutely important to look at as wear the business hat and look at data, to be able to wear the white hat in Edward de Bono's context, and understand, look at just white and black, which is just the critique and the data. But are we also emotionally cognizant to what they are going through? Sometimes just a football huddle and saying, hey, what, we can do it. Let's complete this, or the sense of, why are we behind them? Is something which can help. A pat on the back can help. So we as a group, we are very, very stringent, and we are very, very serious about the reward and recognitions. And you at Frontline know, because you power them for us. We have our value champs. We have managers who have least attrition, managers who have displayed extreme level of resilience during the sale period. They are recognized, they are called out, and such behavior is absolutely promoted. So, to conclude, there could be two aspects to this particular scenario in completion rate. One could be a technical aspect or an operational aspect. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if there is a complaint, regular complaint that the cash desk, let's take cash desk as an example, is slow, and the cashier is inefficient, and there is a long queue. Is the cashier at fault, or is the system hanging?
Right.
That is a question I would ask the manager. Possibly the system is hanging and the cashier is not trained well. And I completely agree with what Tripti said. Honesty really works. Because in today's scenario with the consumer behavior changing, the consumer who's walking in knows that we are in the sale period. The consumer can see long queues and is not expecting that consultative selling or high end one-on-one important selling, which we do usually, where we treat the customer like king and we have an entire customer service proposition. All they need, even as a customer, is just acknowledgement that, hey, this is a sale period and we love you and we are very grateful that you are here, and just a smile and a nod, and a manager walking on the floor instead of managing, also being a part of the team. Training people team in our scenario is, so everybody blends into one big sales family during this time. Even the team who reports into me, be it content, be it training, be it delivery, they all are standing on the floor, including I make it a point to be in the store and understand that, simple human things which can go wrong, leading to these low completion rates. So, do we have that emotional quotient as well as the intelligent quotient, and the balance between two to understand what is wrong? And like I said, once you know the problem, the solution is not difficult. Understanding, diagnosing a issue or a challenge is what always works. You understand the reason correctly,
Mm-hmm.
and the solution is a ready reckoner. I think everybody in the world will be able to give great solutions. There are very few training teams who will come up and tell you this is where you are going wrong.
Yeah. So
And in
identify. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, and just to conclude this, sale period is very, very dynamic, because I operate in a system where we are very high on customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the customer is cognizant and not coming in expecting a great service, just a nod and a smile and honesty is what I wanted to say. And I completely am in alignment with Tripti there, that we should train and we should empower the regional head and the business heads to take customer centric decisions, which is over and above the usual processes.
Hmm.
Are we empowering them that, hey, since you are unhappy, can we give you this or a gift voucher, or come back again, or a home delivery or something which makes the customer realize that, I might not get what I want, but I am cherished. And
Yeah.
in coming back to this particular scenario, I think a root cause analysis helps.
Sure. So I think two very specific things that you talked about, both of which are quite important: the operational aspect of the problem, what is in the process that could be hindering something, and you also made it equally important to look at the emotional quotient of it. How are they feeling? What is it that could stop them from achieving things that they're expected to? So I
Yes.
think that brings us to the end of the practical scenario bit for the webinar. So if we can get Tripti back, we'll quickly. Conclude. I know we've overshot by 12 minutes, and I'll definitely end it with a few thoughts. And I think all of us can agree it's definitely been a very practical webinar where both of you have shared very specific examples, specific insights to say how have you solved certain problems in your own organizations. I'd like to, for our audience, I'm sure the questions that you have been answered because it's been very specific and in depth. So as an audience, if I'd have to give you three things to take away from this webinar, the first one, I'm going to take Tripti on it and quote her to say short, simple, easy. That's what you need to do during the sales period, in terms of your content, in terms of your onboarding, in terms of your initiatives as a whole, needs to be short, simple, and easy, because that's what's going to get your learners to achieve the training initiatives that you have in mind. The second one, I'm going to bring in the Pali's. I think the popular thing that we did learned today was reverse brainstorming. Think about the problems that you're going to face, and solution for them beforehand, so that you have that you are at least in some aspect prepared to handle those situations, and they're not unforeseen anymore. And I think to summarize what both of you have said, the third thing is sometimes it's just the numbers game. It's figure out your KPIs, figure out your performance metrics, see how they're aligned, and if there are stores that are doing very well, use them as an example to help the stores that are not doing well. But during the sales period, it's definitely a numbers game, both for the sales team members as well as for the training team. So three things, just to repeat: short, simple, easy, do reverse brainstorming, and it's a numbers game, so ensure you have the right data at the right time. So that was our webinar on the holiday hustle, on how training teams can maximize sales impact. I've had a wonderful time, I think, hosting both of you as experts on this panel. Thank you so much for your insights, and I really hope that the sales season goes very well for your organizations, because you seem extremely well prepared to handle them. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
once again.
Thank you so much, and happy selling.
Thank you. Thank you, Trupti. Thank you, Susanna. It was
Thank you,
great.
Dipali. Thank you,
Thank
Susan.
you. Thank you,
Thank you.
audience, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.